Good evening to you all. So, seeing as who is here tonight, of course, this number accounts for who happens to be listening for the first time. But then when I see people that I know, then I think, oh, maybe I'll do something that I wouldn't do if everybody was new. So one thing I want to do is I want to start with just a paragraph or so from, it's excerpted from the material that Jeff and Sally are sending out for their study group, for their class tomorrow night. And it comes from a commentary by Jamgon Kongtrul on the Mahamudra Aspiration Prayer and on the section of ground, path, and fruition. And I won't read the actual stanza, since it requires more explanation. But this little section, I think, is actually kind of helpful. It is important to understand that people often believe that Buddhist explanations make a distinction between what is called the way things are, or conventional reality, and the way things appear, conventional reality, and the way things are, which is the ultimate reality that one can experience with perfect wisdom. So conventional reality and ultimate reality. Since this distinction is made in Buddhist teachings, they think it is therefore necessary to block or bring cessation to the appearance of things, and to somehow establish or create an experience of emptiness separate from and beyond appearances. In that case, the distinction between conventional and ultimate reality is simply a mental construct. It cannot be said that conventional reality is a mistake and ultimate reality is not. In the teachings, this is just designated, or the distinction between conventional and ultimate reality is just distinguished for the benefit of understanding, while the two truths are in fact not separate. If one understands this incorrectly and thinks it is necessary to block or bring cessation to appearances that one experiences, and to establish some sort of emptiness as a goal, then one has fallen into the extreme of mental supposition that reifies or solidifies emptiness. The purpose of understanding the indivisibility of the two truths is to realize that all things that appear and are categorized as conventional realities are in their own nature without a self-established entity, that is, without inherent existence. This is the ultimate truth. Therefore, the two realities have always been integrated and are the two aspects of one and the same thing. I bring this up before our shamatha session because there is a benefit in cultivating the stillness in the mind, because when caught in the busyness and chatter of what goes on, for one, we're caught. And the other is that it's harder to see what's actually going on, simply because we are caught. So the bias in favor of a still mind has some practical roots. But in this commentary, he's pointing out that the conventional appearances and ultimate reality are not two separate things. So the thoughts that appear in the mind, all the sensory appearances that come to us in whatever form, whatever way, these are not a problem. These are not intrinsically something to be gotten rid of for something more sublime. And I don't know whether it's helpful for others, but at least I have found it helpful to be reminded of this, which allows me to be much simpler about my practice of calm abiding and not so judgmental about what arises. And even hold, if I can't, not able in the moment, even to hold the sense, the appreciation that everything that arises in the stream of experience could actually be the door to this ultimate reality, inseparable from what's arising. So while we might think that, in quotes, just attending to the breath is somehow a beginning thing to do, and it is, but just attending to the tactile sensation itself could in fact be a door to the ultimate. Just attending to the stillness itself can be a door to the ultimate as well. So whether there is stillness or movement in the mind, we can let go of the judgment about that. So let us take refuge.
Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorptions of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorptions of calm abiding in order to establish all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
Having turned our attention to refuge, which in this case can be just the simple clarity of mind that I will now engage the practice of the Dharma in the form of calm abiding practice. Opened our hearts, having allowed the mind to open, holding all that arises in the expanse of space, the gentleness and loving kindness. Settle into your practice of calm abiding. Whether that is just allowing the mind to come to rest, and resting in the space of the mind, or allowing the mind to come to rest, some aspect of your experience, like the flow of the breath.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in the state.
Thank you. So, in terms of reminders, the obvious one is to reiterate that again tomorrow night, Jeff and Sally will be continuing their class series. If you want to go further into discussion of ground, path, and fruition, if you were intrigued at all by the quotation from the teaching by Jamgon Kongtrul, then it's a great opportunity to join in. The other thing I would bring up is to encourage everybody to sort of look ahead in mental space and create this space at the beginning of June for the 2 weeks. Just open this space, because in this space, Khenpo Lodro Dönya Rinpoche will come and fill that space with incredible teachings and his activity to open the gates of the 3-year retreat. So details will be forthcoming soon, but the weekend before the gate opening will be on June 16th. I always have to look sideways to see if my dates are correct. And then the weekend before that, that's a Saturday, the weekend before that we'll have a teaching on taking adversity to the path on Friday night. And on Saturday, teaching on, it's entitled Discovering the Heart of the Path, or something like that, which is on the 4 Dharmas of Gampopa. And then the 6 Bardos, teachings about how to prepare for the circumstances that will transpire as we slip into death and beyond. It's actually applicable even in this life too, so. But that would be the most probably, oh really, death? Life, I know this life stuff already. And then we'll have a Green Tara empowerment and refuge ceremony before that on Tuesday evening. And this is, of course, we have our fingers crossed behind our backs because the airplane tickets have not been bought as far as we know. So everything is just, if we all kind of create this space, I think it will happen. But without that kind of determination, I don't know. So it's up to us. It's up to us. What else is on the list? We don't have cleaning tonight because that was done this morning, and I mentioned that just because if you really look carefully, you actually don't have to look that carefully just to see how clean everything is. But we can thank those who stayed after for that. Well, that's unusual.
Anybody who can help with this.
Yes, as I said last weekend, participation at an individual level is voluntary. Participation at a collective level, however, is mandatory. So we will need there are a lot of ways that we can weave together our activities to make sure that this actually happens. So, for ourselves, for our own benefit and the benefit of others.
See Linda.
It's now open. Bravo. Okay. All right. The things I didn't know before I knew them. And that was one of them until just now. Thank you. It's not a small task even to just get it to the point where you can push the button and make that possible. So let's have some tea and come back, and then we'll find out whether you have questions for me or whether I have questions for you.
Or both. Or both.